guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you guys know, I studied and lived in the US before, and now I live in Spain. As Chinese, as a foreigner in both countries, I have experienced different levels of culture shocks in both countries. So today I want to make a comparison between living in the US and living in Spain through different aspects of life. So a little bit background information. I lived in Boston and New York before, and now I live in Madrid. So these three cities are all big cities, so I think they're actually comparable. And one more thing that I want to mention first is that US is such a big country and Spain has so many different regions and cultures. So what I share today is what I have experienced and what I have seen, or maybe what my friends have experienced. This may not apply to every single corner of these two countries, and if you are from a region whose lifestyle is very different from what I've shared today, please leave a comment down below. I would love to learn. And with that in mind, let's cut to the chase. Number one, tipping culture. I gotta say, the US tipping culture is probably the biggest culture shock that I had when I first moved there, because in China we don't have any sort of tipping culture, whereas in the US, like, tipping is the hallmark of dining out. Well, not only dining out, you gotta tip your taxi driver, hairdresser, porter, the room cleaning lady. So let's just take dining out as an example. There is no written law or rules saying that you have to tip, but if you don't tip, things are not gonna go down well. For example, one of my roommates, who's also Chinese, he went to a ramen place and he forgot to tip because that was just not in our DNA. And the waitress just like ran out of the restaurant and chased him all the way down the street, asking him why he hasn't tipped. So normally you need to tip 15 to 20% on top of the bill. One of my friends taught me how to do the math of any number times 15 really fast in the hat, not with the phone. So when everybody took up the phone and did a calculation with their phone, I was like sitting there silently doing the math in my head, which makes me look really smart. But yeah, on the other hand, here in Spain, tipping is not obligatory. It's perfectly fine if you don't tip, but of course the server would be very appreciative if you leave some change on the table. So it's not like in the US you have to write down a precisely calculated number on the bill. In Spain it's more casual, so if you travel to Spain or if you are moving to Spain, the tipping thing isn't really an issue. It's really voluntary. Number two, speaking habits, or what is considered to be a polite way of talking to somebody, especially when you are ordering food and stuff. So in the US, I think the most common way to order something is, can I have something, like, can I have a tall vanilla latte, or can I have curry chicken? Of course, you can also say, oh, I'll take this teriyaki chicken or something. But it's very common that people use a sentence like, can I have something. It's sort of like asking for permission. That is the speaking habit of the Americans, and that's what they think a polite way to talk to somebody. And of course, in their day-to-day life, they just pepper their sentence with like, thank you, please, would you, could you. But in Spain, the speaking habit is quite different. So let's say if you want to order a coffee, you normally would just say, un café por favor, one coffee please. You don't need to say the whole sentence, can I have the coffee? I have never heard in my life a native speaker saying puedo tener un café. That's actually kind of funny. So in occasions where they use a question to order something would be, me traes un café, me pones una cerveza. They don't really use puedo tener algo. And in the day-to-day life, of course, there are a good amount of Spanish people who like to use gracias or por favor, but many people don't say that many gracias, but it doesn't mean that they are not appreciative. So most of the times the gracias, or like the thank you part, lies more in the tone than in the word gracias. So it's not about what you say, it's more about the way you say it. So if you come to Spain and if you don't hear gracias or por favor as much as you imagined, it's not because they are rude or anything, it's just their speaking habit. And number three, daily schedule, or let's just call it meal time, which is more specific, because the meal time in Spain, I assume it's different from most countries. So normally people in China and the US have lunch at around 12-ish, and the lunchtime normally like ends at around 1, I would say, whereas here in Spain they don't start having lunch until 2 in the afternoon. That's their legit lunchtime. I remember once my friend traveled to Spain and we went to a restaurant at around 1, we ordered something from the menu and we picked paella, and the waiter told us that the paella wouldn't be ready, like the first batch of paella wouldn't be ready until 1:30. We had to wait for at least half hour for the first batch of paella to be ready because they are not expecting anybody. Even 1:30 is pretty early for them. And of course, because they have lunch at around 2, their dinner time is also pushed back accordingly. So normally, like locals have dinner at around 9 or 9:30. It can be 10 or 10:30, even at 11 or 11:30. If you walk on the street, especially in summer, you are still gonna see a bunch of people having dinner. So the reason why Spanish people have such a weird meal time, I would say, is because they are living in the wrong time zone. I actually made a video before about culture shocks in Spain. So in that video, I gave a more detailed explanation of why this happens. So if you are interested, please go check that video. Number 4, doing laundry, or more specifically, the way people dry their laundry or dry their clothes. So this came as a really big surprise for me when I went to the US, because for all my life, I assumed that most people dry their clothes outside, or at least that's an option. While in the US, in many states, that's not even an option, because I wouldn't say it's illegal because apparently it's not in federal law, but in some states there are state laws, but most of the times it's because of this association called Homeowners Association, and they are the one who laid rules saying that you cannot hang your clothes outside of your home, like you cannot line dry your clothes in the open air, in the sun and in the wind. No, that's totally banned in many states. And the reason for this, like, it really blows my mind. They want to keep the residences looking neat and tidy, and that's the reason why you cannot line dry clothes outside. Well, I know I sound a little bit sarcastic, but I'm not really judging it. I'm just like, it's just not fathomable. But well, of course, people have different way of living. Anyway, so how do people dry their clothes in the US? They use a dryer. I gotta admit, like especially in winter, using a dryer is really efficient. But on the other hand, it can ruin dresses like this. But here in Spain, I think most people line dry their clothes. It's common practice. So if your apartment is interior, it means that one of your windows faces the patio. That's where people dry their clothes. But of course, if your apartment is exterior, like you face the street, it's perfectly okay. Like that's what people do. They just hang their clothes outside of their window. And yet another difference in the laundry culture is that US, if you rent an apartment, many times it doesn't come with a washing machine, so you'll have to do your laundry either down there in the basement of the building if it has a laundry room, or you'll have to go outside. So you have to carry all your laundry to a laundry shop. And of course, even if you're using the washing machine or the dryer inside your building, you will still have to pay. Quarters are American people's favorite coin. They use it everywhere for everything. Number 5, let's just call it floor numbering. It's basically how Spanish people count the floors. So in China and the US, like if you live on the first floor, then it means that you live on the floor that's on the street level. Whereas here in Spain, the first floor is actually physically the second floor, or sometimes it can even be the third floor, like physically. So the floor on the street level is actually called bajo in Spain. So that's like floor 0. Remember, if you book an Airbnb place or if you rent an apartment in Spain, when you see the first floor, it's actually physically the second one. If you see second floor, it's physically the third one. And number 6, apartment renting. In my mind, when you rent an apartment, it normally comes with furniture. I mean, like the most basic ones. Let's say maybe a bed, a desk, a table, at least a bed. It came as a real surprise to me. I feel like I'm seeing this a lot when I moved to the US, and I realized that many apartments, if not most apartments, when you rent them, they come clean. You're only renting the space. They're just like walls. Movable furnitures, most of the times there are none. I mean, I live in Boston, and the New York area. If you rent an apartment that's unfurnished, it means that when you leave this apartment, you'll have to move all your furnitures as well. Like, it doesn't matter if you move it to your next place or you throw them on street. I mean, normally in the last week of August and the first week of September, there are tons of furniture lining up on street like trees for you to pick up. I mean, at least in Boston it's like this. But normally in China and Spain, when you rent a place, normally they come with furnitures. Of course, on the website it's gonna say if it comes with furniture, whereas in the US your basic assumption probably should be they don't come with furnitures. And now we've reached our last point of the day. So actually I've got a whole list here. I have more points to talk about, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm gonna only talk about 7 points today. And if you like this kind of video, I can make more. And the last point is the shopping experience of beauty products and cosmetics. So as a girl, this is a big shopping category for me, so the price is really important. My experience is that in the US, at least the cities that I've lived in, there are not many options of where to buy these products. I mean, of course you can shop online, but most people only shop in Sephora as well, and these big department stores like Lord & Taylor's, Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom. But anyway, you get the idea. But the point is, even though you have options to go to different department stores or Sephora, price doesn't vary from place to place. So you buy this lipsticks in Sephora for $21. In Bloomingdale's, it's probably also $21. There's no difference. But well, of course, there are annual events in Sephora and in these big department stores. I think Sephora has a 20%. I think 20% is like the top. But here in Spain, I mean, guys, there are just so many options. So this kind of shops are called perfumerías. Yes, I know, judging by the name, you thought they are perfume stores, but they are not. Like, they sell all kinds of beauty products, cosmetics for the hair, for the body. So there is Primor, Druni, Douglas. You can either shop online in these shops or you can go to their physical store. They have physical stores on street, like many of them. And then of course, if you shop online, there are even more options. In the stores that I just mentioned, like Primor, Druni, or Douglas, many products there, and I'm talking about popular products. They have a 20 to 30 or sometimes 40. It may go up to 50% off all year round. It doesn't matter when you buy these, like, they are always that cheap. And it's the same product as you buy in Sephora. I mean, for the first few times when I traveled to Spain, I also shop in Sephora, and now I judge myself for doing that every time I think about it. So if you travel to Spain or if you move to Spain, I highly recommend you check out these stores. Yeah, I think that wraps up the last point of the day. And as I mentioned just now, if you guys are interested in this kind of comparison video, I can make more. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you have different experiences than mine, I would love to see the comment down below. So that's it for today. Have a nice day and ciao.